Recently, Verizon had to use tiny red balls to try to make you think they had a much better network than Sprint. But there's one big thing they left out. The new Sprint LTE Plus network delivers faster download speeds than Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile. While Verizon seems to be focused on tiny balls, Sprint has been obsessively focused on building the network of the future. And to celebrate, Sprint is cutting their rates in half. Switch to Sprint and save 50% on most Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile rates. You get the new Sprint LTE Plus network with faster download speeds than Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile. And we'll even cover your cost to switch, up to $650 per line. Only from Sprint. Better for less.
Claim based on Sprint's analysis of average LTE download speeds using Nielsen NMP data. Speeds may vary. Offer coverage not available everywhere. Excludes taxes, surcharges, add-on, and premium content. Subject to new line port activation fee and credits. See website for eligible plans. Savings through 1/8/18 after pay full amount. Restrictions apply. Buy up your reward card after online registration and phone turn-in.
Blog Talk Radio.
Live from Fort Bragg's backyard, this is the show that put the 110 Nation on the map. There is only one nation, the 110 Nation, and you're listening to the 110 Nation Sports Show, covering each and every sport across the board. There is no sport too large or too little. It's time to talk the talk. Here we go. Here's the man, the founder, and your host, Mr. CJ Sports.
Welcome to the 110 Nation Sports Show. I am your host, Mr. CJ Sports, and I tell you what, if you had the opportunity to sit down last night and watch the Super Bowl, and if listening to Lady Gaga sing the national anthem did not bring chills to your body, I gained so much respect for Lady Gaga and the performance she put on for the national anthem. It's not every day. It seems every artist decides, and this is one of my biggest pet peeves, artists these days that act like the national anthem is their song and they can sing it how they choose to sing it, not how it was written to be sung. And for those out there listening to the show and you ever have the opportunity to sing the national anthem, put this in the back of your mind. This is coming from a vet. This is coming from someone that served their country, someone that has had to go overseas, someone that takes pride into what they did and the country they served. There's not a single person, a single American, and especially those that have served, that finds it respectful by any stretch of the imagination for you to sing the song the way you want to sing it versus the way it is sung, the way we feel that we are serving for it. I hate listening to artists or anybody sing the song other than the way it is supposed to be sung. It is not your song. It is a song that represents everybody that has sacrificed everything to serve for their country, for us to have the rights we have right now. I don't know how many times I've watched this national anthem sung by Lady Gaga, but every time I still get a chill. Because, honestly, when I heard Lady Gaga was doing anything with the Super Bowl, let alone the national anthem, all I could do was put my head down and shake my head. And then to sit there and have the opportunity to watch her sing the national anthem and put on the performance she did, oh, my Lord. I might not care for a lot of her music. The truth be told, there's probably not too much of it I like, period. And we'll just say I don't care for most of her music. There's a few songs that I don't mind listening to. She is over the top out there with her outfits and her concerts and the stuff she does. But for no other reason but for what she did yesterday and how she not only did she sing the national anthem, you could tell there was raw emotion. There was raw emotion when she sung that national anthem. And that, in my eyes, and from what I've seen on social media and in conversations with a lot of people, in a lot of people's eyes, Lady Gaga has gained a lot of respect from a lot of people because the garbage that has been singing the national anthem for so long now, and then butchering it and making it seem like they wrote the song and it was going to be sung the way they designed it instead of the way that it was supposed to be sung. Very, very, very pleased with Lady Gaga and her performance. I was blown away nonetheless. And it's crazy to know the night and day difference from one performance to the other in reference to the halftime show, which was probably one of the worst halftime shows we've ever seen at the Super Bowl. And I tell you what, the halftime show was also pissed off a lot of people with Beyonce and her anti-cops and trying to spin everything into a racial matter at the halftime show. And then there's you got half the people out there that are pissed off because they had to sit through Coldplay, Maroon, or Bruno Mars, and Beyonce's attempt of a halftime show, which was just dreadfully awful. And you know, Bruno Mars, usually I enjoy his music and what he's doing, but that whole trio was, and then I'm going to excuse Bruno Mars out of it because at least, you know, it was somewhat good music. that garbage that Coldplay and Beyonce did, that was just hideous. I don't even think there was a single Beyonce fan that raised their hand in an acknowledgement of knowing this artist and wanting to be a fan of hers during the Super Bowl. Everybody just kind of ducked and hiding. Oh, what did she just do? And then it is entertaining to the fact that she was escorted to the arena, the stadium and everything by cops, and then she turns around and does a song that is anti-cop and just really showed a very classless, I mean, I didn't have respect for her anyway. Her music's been garbage for years, but what a classless act to put on display at the halftime show, and just really rubbed a lot of people the wrong way as well. But anyway, we didn't come to talk about the artists that showed up for Super Bowl 50. Even though we had Night and Day and Lady Gaga's popularity just went through the roof with that sensational job at the national anthem. But we come here to talk about the Super Bowl. Yes, we're having our own after party here. And as I've had an opportunity to talk to a lot of people and listen to a lot of people, and it has been very entertaining today, day after the Super Bowl. Before we jump into that, make sure you guys check us out on Twitter. You can follow me at CJ Sports 1. You can follow the 110 Nation at 110 Nation. Also, check us out on Facebook. My personal fan page, my personal fan page, Mr. CJ Sports, the 110 Nation fan page, 110 Nation Sports. Also, check out our blog site, www.the110nationsports.com. And also check out our company site, www.the110nation.com. For all the latest going on here at the 110 Nation. There you go. Woo! Lord have mercy. The good Lord answer my prayers. I tell you what, I was hoping that Denver would win. I was praying that Denver would win. I honestly thought if Denver won, it wouldn't be a blowout. It'd be a pretty close game. And the 24-10 score doesn't really do the game justice. It was really closer in that. Honestly, as quickly as the Carolina Panthers can turn a game around and put points on the board, only be down by two touchdowns. The game was pretty close. But I said also at the same time, if it was a Carolina win, it would be a Carolina beatdown, which it didn't end up being a Carolina win, obviously. But prayers were answered. I tell you what an interesting game. A lot of, I'm not going to say controversy, but a lot of things that I think could have been better about the game, better about the officiating. I think the only thing that could not really have been better was probably that Denver Broncos defense. Wow. They just were all over Cam Newton. We knew that the Denver's defense was number one, but yes, it wasn't. It wasn't until last night that you got a true, and I can't even really say that. And I'm going to pull this up because I thought this was interesting. A lot of people did not even, until I saw this, it's not been a real big conversation. But the Denver defense, the turnovers, the fumbles, the sacking Cam Newton, the hits on Cam Newton, pressure. I mean, it's been. They had 6 sacks, 1 interception, 2 forced fumbles. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for some. I think sharing on my page. Well, I thought this was very interesting. It kind of gave you a true measure how good this Denver Broncos. You got to think about it. the Denver Broncos played the Pittsburgh Steelers, which was one of the hottest teams in the AFC. Played the New England Patriots. And the Carolina Panthers. All in the playoffs. Like, that's, and I must have shared it on the other page, but as I'm pulling it up, I tell you what, I can't get past laughing at angry grandpa. If you guys have not seen Angry Grandpa, after the Carolina Panthers lose the game, they got this video of this old man who takes probably about the same size TV I have, about a 46-inch flat screen TV, and tosses it and beats it and shatters it and just goes crazy on the TV. It is entertaining. But the Broncos defense, playoff dominance versus Steelers, Patriots, and Panthers. 13 sacks, 7 forced turnovers, and only one pass touchdown allowed. And not only that, they got to Tom Brady, 24 times, and they got to Cam Newton, 12 times, and they hit him, and that's more than triple those two teams had allowed all season long, on average, per game. And this Denver defense, oh, Lord. Some of the controversial, I guess, things that were discussed yesterday, and I kind of want to clear the air on those. Aqib Talib, and, well, one, we know Roger Goodell has been talking and has been floating about the 2 personal fouls. And of course, that was the first thing everybody threw up when Talib got his second personal foul. And for those that had been out of the loop all weekend long, one of the things that got brought up, and good possibility it will change and be a rule, is if you get 2 personal fouls, you're going to be ejected from the game. And it's one of the things that's kind of modeled off of the NCAA. So, of course, when Talib got his second personal foul, that was kind of the first comment, and everybody kind of ran with it and was, blowing up Facebook and social media about it, which the fans kind of took it the wrong way. And in the fact that the way that the rest of the world, I guess it's more the Panthers fans and the people running their mouth on CBS last night, but the rest of us out there that kind of know a little bit more than just being a fan at this point, this was a model off of, and what's possibly, and it probably will happen, is more modeled off of the NCAA, and it's got to be dead ball personal fouls. So the odds are Talib would have never been thrown out of the game if the new rule would have been implicated. It's one of those things that they want to reduce after the whistle stuff, like when Norman and Odell Beckham and that garbage that went on with both of them. Trying to prevent that stuff, not because you got a face mask one play and then you got a late hit another play or roughing the passer or something. No, it is after the play, the dead ball personal fouls, and it's funny because Panther Nation was in an uproar when if this would have been the new rule, he'd have been kicked out of the game and blah blah blah, this that and the other, and no, that's not how the rule is going to be written. If not, you're going to find players getting kicked out of the game all the time for really no reason. But with that being said, I feel Talib should have not had two personal fouls, but at the same time, I feel he should have been kicked out of the game. So, how's that? You just said the two personal, no. And now you're saying no. What I'm saying is, the first personal foul, taunting, that was probably the start of some really bad calls. That was probably one of the worst calls of the game all night. Both of them were jacking their jaw to each other. There was no reason that Talib got a personal foul for taunting. That was beyond horrible. And I wish I got the opportunity to hear what was going through the referee's mind for his logic of thinking of why Talib should get a personal foul for taunting, and either A, and the Carolina Panther receiver did not because he was jacking his jaw as well, or why there was one given at all, because that already right there kind of set the tone that this game was not going to be called down the middle. So now, and I think there was enough mistakes gone each way that it balanced itself out. So Panther fans go, oh, well, Mr. C.J. Boyd, it's kind of siding with us, and the officiating wasn't, first of all, Talib should not have got that personal foul. But at the same time, why I think he should have not been in that game the rest of the game is that face mask that he intentionally tried to rip the receivers, I think it was Brown, head off his shoulder and threw him out of bounds. That right there, to me, that solidified being ejected. I'm sorry, but that was a little above and beyond. That was a little ridiculous. For sports that is so about some safety, and we're all concerned about the health of their players, that should have been a no-brainer to me. Where I don't feel that Talib deserved a personal penalty, a personal foul for taunting, because both of them did it, so there should have been one or neither one. At the same time, I think he should have been thrown out of the game right then for what he did with that. So that was going a little extreme, and I don't appreciate that. I didn't like that, and I wish at that point the NFL would have stepped in, and the NFL would have made a more cautious, a more cautious move on the side of safety. Obviously, Talib, you already caught one personal foul, and was already aggravated and agitated, and the Panthers are moving the ball at this point. And it was more aggression. It wasn't, he was intentionally trying to hurt him or anything. But it could have severely hurt Brown. And it really could have put a black eye on the NFL. In my opinion, it kind of still did, because you didn't make the right call on that. And I could get past the ignorance of the officiating on that taunting call, the first personal foul. That is just an official that obviously didn't belong there and just needed, somehow just slipped in. I don't know if someone was sick and he substituted, but obviously they didn't have the best of the best crew out there, because that was just straight ignorant and a horrible call. But at the same time, now that was diligence to safety, and I take a lot more serious and have a much bigger issue with, because like I said, that could have turned out really ugly, and not only someone could have got hurt, it could have led to some fights. A lot of things could have came of it, and I don't know why they didn't eject him at that point, but it would have not upset me, even though I was pulling for the Denver Broncos to win this game. It would not have upset me. As a matter of fact, I was shocked. I even made a comment about it in conversation. So, I was really surprised that the NFL allowed that to happen, and there was no, repercussions about that. The other controversial thing is it was ruled incomplete, where CBS and the commentators there tried to reassure everybody that there was no doubt that it's going to get a return, and that was a catch. It wasn't an open close case. It wasn't. If the tip of that ball would have never touched the ground, yes, it would have got overturned. But as he was going down, the tip of the ball touched the ground. It looked like it jarred it loose a little bit. He rolled over, and then he tried to keep it from touching the ground the second time when he rolled over, which I don't think it touched the second time. But what made that not be able to be overturned was the fact that the ball did touch. The tip of it did touch. Regardless how you want to twist it, Panther fans, that has been a big thing today. If you actually take an honest look at the replay, as he was going down, not when he rolled over, because he kept it off the ground when he rolled over, but as he was going down, and that ball was tucked to his side, the tip of that ball did touch the ground. And therefore, it did jolt it a little bit. And it all looked as one motion because he rolled over at the same time, but the ball never stayed still as he rolled over. Therefore, the ball touched the ground and was not a complete catch at that point. I know a lot of Panther fans are upset. You're just simply going to have to get over it because, well, one, it don't really make a difference. But two, it was not a catch. I concur with that. I absolutely, positively, and 100% fine with that call. And, and so far, I don't agree with one personal foul. I don't agree that Khalid was not kicked out of the game, but also don't agree, with the Panther fans. I agree with the fact that it was called an incomplete pass, and I agree that it should not have been overturned because that was not a catch. I tell you what, how to start off that game. Denver came down that field and was moving the ball. It looked, honestly, at first it looked really impressive. I really thought that Denver had something, and they were just going to move that ball up and down the field without any problem. And until they got stopped down there and only got a field goal out of it, I thought, wow, they looked really good at first. And even though Carolina lost, the defense didn't honestly play that bad. I mean, it's not like that Denver offense was going up and down the field, racking up yards. I don't even think they have 200 total, 200 yards offense. You take away, you remove the sack fumble that was a touchdown, and the other turnover where T.J. Ward recovered it down like the 3-yard line to set Denver up for the other touchdown. You take those 2 turnovers away, and you got a 10-9 game. Actually, a 10-10 game at that point. So, I mean, defensively, I guess if you're looking for high notes, if you're a Carolina Panther player or a part of or front office or the coaching staff or even a fan, if you're looking for a high note to take away from the season, something to look forward to for next year, that to me has got to be you lost. In Carolina, I mean, your defense only gave up, really 10 points. And, you can't really – field goal, and touchdown. Denver 3, the defensive touchdown, 3. You gave up 3 field goals. You gave up 9 points because Denver went for a 2-point conversion. So technically 10-9. You really gave up 9 points outside of the turnovers. If you 195 points or 194 yards. Passes only had 9 first downs. That outside of the penalties, you got 2 of them for the penalty. You had time of possession. Everything, third down efficiency, you were 3 for 15 versus Denver's 1 of 14. 90 yards rushing, only 104 yards passing. If nothing else, defensively, you were stout against the Super Bowl champions. So you really can't, have all negative feelings or thoughts from, and they're replaying the Super Bowl on the NFL Network, and they got that joke of a halftime fun right now. That was some horrible stuff. But you got to at least take that part of it from the Super Bowl and at least, grow on it and know that you're going to get Benjamin back next year, and you're going to add another first-round draft pick to it, and you're probably going to acquire a piece or two in the offseason. So, I mean, even though this is it hurts. I can only imagine being a Panther fan right now and how, especially having the season that, you thought you had. I mean, it was a little bit distorted there. Panther fans were a little overconfident for a team that only had beaten three teams that were above 500 out of the 18 wins that they'd already had at that point in time. So 18 games with 17 wins. So 14 of those games were all gimme games anyway. I mean, I know it's the NFL and any given Sunday, but you by far have the easiest schedule to deal with. And Panther fans, they didn't want to hear that. Panther fans, they're all about this and Panthers. Oh, my God, we are the baddest team to walk the face of the earth. We can run this 18-1. Most of the season we're running undefeated, this, that, and the other. Well, it's easy to say that when you ain't got nobody to play. And, I give them credit. They beat Seattle, which I honestly thought at the time was the second best team in the AFC, and they beat Arizona, who was the best team in the NFC. And then they beat Arizona, which, was the best team in the NFC. And, so the third best team out in the NFC was able to win some games. And you got something to grow off of. And kind of brings me to another topic. Not only does the team have something to grow off of, also in this offseason, Cam Newton needs to grow up, and I think that's been the other hot topic of the afternoon and the day is Cam Newton. I guess it was kind of said best on Colin Cowherd today. He's over the top, celebrating and dancing and acting a fool when he's winning. So I guess we should have expected the same when he lost, him to be over the top and just ridiculous with it. I never thought that I would see a grown man throw himself to the ground and roll on the ground pouting. Like, that to me was a little extreme. I understand, because I kind of had this conversation on Facebook earlier today, and someone had talked about it, and they talked about him walking out in the media in his press conference, and I'll talk about that here in a second. And I was like, well, also him throwing himself to the ground. He was the lady I was talking to, Tamika Carter. I want to shout out to her. Long-time friend. She comments and posts a lot of stuff on either my fan page or the 110 fan page, but one or the other, she's constantly liking and commenting on, and so I want to shout out to her. And not to get sidetracked here, but of course I will. I have I'm not gonna say a lot of friends, and I'm not gonna say because I don't know. I don't view everybody as friends. I feel that I have associates and people that I know and acquaintances and stuff like that. I don't feel that I necessarily everybody that I socialize I consider friends. So one, I don't feel that I have a lot of friends, and I keep it that way. There's only honestly about a good 3 to 5 people at best that I could call at all hours of the night. And to me, that's the difference between friends and acquaintances and people I'm associated with or whatever, is the ones that I feel that we're friends. No matter what hour of the night, if I call you or you call me, we're doing what needs to be done. Come get you out of jail, come pick you up at a bar, whatever the case, and vice versa. And I feel there's a good 3 to 5 of them that actually would honestly do that. And I was a lot of people, I have so many friends, this, that, and the other. But, yeah, if you sit down and honestly think about it, how many, if you call, you found yourself stranded at a bar, 3 o'clock in the morning, drunk, had no business driving, don't have no money to buy a cab, how many people would you honestly think you could call at 3 o'clock in the morning? And I'm not talking a bar right around the corner. I'm talking about maybe about 20, 30 minutes from the house, 15, 20 minutes. Let's go with that. About 15. We'll make it somewhat close. How many of those people do you know will honestly come get you, not expect anything in return, and not use it against you or use it to get you to do something, just to genuinely do it? But I have, a pretty decent size of people that I consider to be acquaintances, friends, associates with, whatever the case may be. And yet, for some reason, out of that group, and even fame I get thrown to this, there's not a lot of those that take the time to like stuff that comes out of the 110 Nation or share stuff that comes out of the 110 Nation or, comment or anything. And it's funny because I had this conversation the other day. It blows my mind how many people will send me, I just got one from one of our guests. He's been on a few times. Very highly respected part of NASCAR. And, I've been on the show many times. And so I have no problem of, liking fan pages or sharing stuff. And it's funny because I get those every single day. Hey, can you share this? Hey, go like this. Well, blah, blah, blah. But it blows my mind how many times that I ask people to share something or like our fan page, and I get absolutely positively no support from the same people or anybody really on our list. I get more shares and more likes and more comments usually out of complete strangers. And as a matter of fact, if the name says yes, George Kramer, I guess how you pronounce it. I know nothing about this person. All I know is they got what looks like a tattoo, because it looks like skin with a New York Yankee tattoo on it, is what it looks like. I have not gone onto their page or been nosy or anything else, and eventually will, because eventually I'm going to send this person something. They religiously every day either comment or like something. And as a matter of fact, Jodina Jean Davis is someone that's currently, or most recently, become a fan of the 110, and she is as well as comments a lot and liked a lot lately. But when it comes to my family, I couldn't say the last time. I think my brother might have been, and it was probably a shot at Joey Logano or a shot at Dale Jr. On a post that had something to do with that. Outside of that, I don't get much love. But Tamika does. She does do a lot of commenting and a lot of likes, and I got to shout her out for it because, like I said, I just don't. For some reason, I don't know. People expect you to bend over backwards for them, or expect you to help them. But here I am. We're creeping up on 5 years at this, and the lack of support really blows my mind at times. As many people that I know that know a lot of people or own businesses and this, that, and the other, and are very unlikely to show their support, but wants me to show my support just blows my mind. But anyway, let's not get into all that. But she commented about that, and so I replied talking about the sideline, throwing himself on the ground sideline, or throwing himself on the ground and rolling around like a kid. Also wasn't a good look for him either. And you talking about the end zone to the sideline, and like I told her, I kind of excused him going to the ground in the end zone because he was put on the ground. He just didn't fall on the ground. Now him rolling and throwing his little tantrum and punching the ground or hitting the ground, that was a little above and beyond. But I was more referencing to the sideline where he just kind of threw himself to the ground and just kind of rolled there and looked like, literally looked like a little 5-year-old. Not getting what they want in the store and just throwing himself to the ground. I was like, honestly, I got to the point I honestly was expecting a little more out of you. First year in the league, maybe second year in the league, yeah, I could see you doing stuff like that. And I remember you doing, childish stuff, just hadn't grown up yet. But, now you are like 5 years in the league, and here you are at the Super Bowl. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, when your kid gets old enough to see this and sees daddy throwing himself to the ground and throwing a temper tantrum and acting like a 4 or 5-year-old, how are you going to be able to be justifiable with that? Why did I get punished? And why did you fuss at me or yell at me for doing that? And here you are on the biggest stage in your career field, on national TV that 120 million people or so watch. Well, actually, it was down a little bit this year, so probably about 105 to 110 million. Our people are watching, and here you are throwing yourself on the ground and throwing a little temper tantrum and looking like a big kid. The whole media thing, I'm not going to hold a lot of weight on that. I'm sorry, but I just got done losing. My rest of my team didn't really show up. Not that Cam Newton really was putting on his performance or anything. He was very inaccurate. I already knew he was an inaccurate quarterback, but that was really bad. I'm expecting him to barely be 50% as it is, but I don't even think he was close to that last night. 43.9%. So yeah, not even really close to that. He had to hit another 2 or 3 to even be 50%. Neither one of the quarterback ratings were good though, but neither one of them really had a great game. Cam was not even accurate. He didn't really start running until the second half. But he was really the only one out there. Receivers, it is and the running game was non-existent. It was. I understand that they got 315 yards, which is much more than the Denver Broncos, 118 on the ground and 197 in the air. Jonathan Stewart rushing for 29 of those yards. Nobody really stood out in the rush game. Cam Newton, 45, Stewart, 29 on 12 carries. Fozzie Whitaker, 4 carries, 26 yards, and Mike Tolbert, who just constantly fumbled the ball. Only lost it once, but fumbled it a couple times. Newton lost it twice. He was really in the offensive line. That was just horrible. It's every time you turn around, either Cam Newton was having to run, he was throwing the ball away, being hit, sacked, fumbling it, whatever the case may be. I would be agitated too. If I was in Cam Newton's shoes, and I had done made the Super Bowl about me with the ignorant stuff that came out of my mouth about race, then I try to flip-flop it and act like it wasn't about race, but I done open, the Pandora box and sounded stupid, and then when media tried to question me about it, my PR person done told me, hey, look, this is not a good idea. You really need to leave the race thing alone, and you try to retract. Well, the media ain't falling for that. So that is something that's going to constantly be in the back of everybody's mind. But then you try to be the man out there on the field, and you couldn't, because there was not. This Denver defense was a 11-player unit. It wasn't just 1 or 2 superstars. This whole unit played very, very well together. And you done went at that point 17-1, and you're trying to bring a championship to Carolina. Has never seen a championship. You're trying to quiet the critics who didn't believe. You try to hush the haters that or were hating, and you fell short. And I can only imagine how bad that hurts. And like I said, I'm not going to excuse him throwing himself to the ground and the tantrums he was throwing like he was a 5-year-old. But I'm also not going to necessarily throw him underneath the bus for the way he acted after the game. I mean, it was a tough loss. I mean, on the same token, you kind of expected immaturity out of Cam Newton. I guess we really shouldn't be too surprised. I mean, this is part of the reason why people disliked him was the immaturity and the stupid things he does, such as stealing and cheating and, not following the rules and the whole pay to play and everything else. So it's, kind of one of those things that I guess you shouldn't be surprised. Like I said, it was said on Colin Cowherd that, if he's over the top with the celebration and the photo ops and playing around instead of, maybe doing some more focusing and paying more attention to what needs to be, what really is important, they like to play around. And so why would you not expect the same over-the-top stuff to happen while they're losing or when they lose? And Cam Newton has seemed to have won in almost every, big stage that he's ever been on, and now he loses the Super Bowl. So, I mean, there was a lot of things that, and obviously he hadn't had that much time to cool off and get past it all. He was still in his pads. Yes, he was not in his jersey, or he had something over top of his jersey. But when he got off, I still seen he was still in his pads. So it was still kind of really fresh after the loss. So yeah, I don't necessarily approve or like what we saw, and I mean, that's your leader. And, I agree with Cowherd as well. There's 3 people on your team that should act professional all the time. And it's kind of another reason why a lot of people just don't care for Cam Newton or what he does. There's 3 people: your quarterback, your head coach, and your defensive captain. Those 3 people should set the example. Those 3 people should act like professionals all the time. And those 3 people are the ones that should be your voice. And when you see one of your leaders act like they're 5 years old, and I mean, if it's a win or if it's a loss, when he's acting that way, it's kind of what you get. What about that punt? The 61-yard return almost brought it to the house. Longest punt return in Super Bowl history. Peyton Manning was the oldest quarterback to start in NFL history, and the Super Bowl was the oldest to win. First quarterback to start for 2 different franchises and win the Super Bowl. Gary Kubiak was the first player to play for the team and coach the team in the Super Bowl. There was a lot of records with that punt. I don't know what the Carolina Panthers thought they saw, or what was just trying to avoid a interference call because it was mighty close. But my best guess on that punt was the first player and almost interfered and had to get out of the way, was blocking the view enough of all the rest of the players that they assumed, because he tried to avoid touching him at all costs before he caught that ball, that there must have been a fair catch signal made. He was trying to avoid touching him. They couldn't see it, and so they assumed when he caught it that was the end of the play. But we had Damian Bean, the host from Dirt Talk Hour on last night. You guys didn't check it out. Make sure you guys catch it. He was messaging me back and forth, and he didn't see the replays. And I made mention. I was like, look, they've showed this like 20 times. And at no point from when he punted that ball until he was finally tackled, or even better yet, when he finally caught the ball, was there any kind of indication that he was going for a fair catch at any point? He never once came close to lifting his hand up or anything. So the only thing I can assume is that that first defender, that first player down there must have blocked everybody else's view, and when they seen him try to avoid at all cost, they must have just assumed that there was a fair catch called, and they did not want to catch. Didn't want to touch him and catch a personal foul for it. So that's the only thing I think of. That it was really, it was something else. It is one of those plays that until you watch the replay, you kind of lost. You were kind of lost on what was going on, and then once you watch the replay, and you got a little bit better of an idea. You just realized that you weren't lost of what was going on. The Carolina Panthers. The Carolina Panthers were just lost what was going on. So, TotalSports.com. I looked this up. It's about the 10 worst QBRs. Pull this up. This looks to be interesting here. There's an art to sucking and still winning. The worst total QBR and Super Bowl win last 10 seasons. The lowest in postseason win in that span. The 4 worst QBRs in Super Bowl to win. Peyton Manning had a 70.2 in 07. Ben Roethlisberger had a 45.6 in 08. Peyton Manning and his win had a 42.3. And then last night, Peyton Manning had a 9.9 QBR rating in a Super Bowl win. So, thought that was interesting. So, we got the game wrapped up, 24-10. Little after game discussion. Obviously, CBS wanted the rights and opportunity to hear Peyton and own those rights to that video of Peyton said he's retiring. So, of course, that's the first thing that they asked him after the game, and of course, Peyton Manning's not ready to answer this question yet. He's going to drag this out a little bit longer. Wants to make sure that he can go kiss the wife, hug the family, thank God, and drink some Budweiser. Then went on the big stage when asked again, the exact same thing. Family, God, and Budweiser. No, he's not being endorsed by Budweiser, but I guess he owns 2 distributors of Budweiser. So, obviously, money circulates in a funny fashion there. Just like he took a $4 million cut to be part of this team, and part of that was he got $2 million if he made the Super Bowl, and he got $2 million if he won the Super Bowl. So he made his money this year. Got paid really well to not only make the Super Bowl, but win the Super Bowl. But obviously we didn't get our answer when it comes to Peyton Manning. That's why I think Peyton Manning's going to retire. Yeah, I said that at the beginning of all this talk when he came back. I don't think there's a doubt. I couldn't imagine him coming back and have the possibility of not finishing out on top. There's no, at this point, there's no better way to go out. You had a horrible first part of the season. You got benched after you had a 0.0 passer rating game. You were out for weeks with the injury and being benched for Brock Osweiler. Then you come back in the last, week and a half, and then you make play the playoffs. And you have the worst QBR in the last 10 seasons to win a Super Bowl. If it wasn't for your defense, I mean, honestly, there's a good chance that you would have won the game. If it wasn't for that defense, you're looking at a possibility 10-9 game. And that's how it was in the first 6 or 7 games. It was that defense. With possible other health issues, with Father Time, and more and also throw in the HGH allegations. Who knows how all that's going to factor into everything. But with everything else, all that put to the side, to be able to go out and on top of your sport, winning the Super Bowl, I just couldn't see why you would. And I mean, honestly, I wouldn't be shocked if he didn't. I almost as shocked as looking at Eli's face after Denver won. It's almost like he was upset that Denver won that game. I don't think Eli liked the fact that Peyton has just as many Super Bowl wins and has gone to go to 4 Super Bowls in total, where Eli has only gotten to 2 trips with 2 wins. Yeah, he's 2 for 2, but that was another thing. That was highly publicized last night and today. That look, like, it's almost like you would have seen him happier if Denver would have lost last night. But would be the final season for Peyton Manning. And this question has not been brought up yet, and I'm really surprised. I thought it would be one of those questions that would have been asked right away. Was it all worth it? Was giving up everything that you had to have Peyton Manning on your team for the 5-year run to walk away with 1 Super Bowl? 1 Super Bowl win. Was it all worth it now? Not knowing how any other scenario would have played out. Possibly could have won more Super Bowls. Possibly could have won the same amount of Super Bowls. Possibly could have not even made it to a Super Bowl. Who knows? Will the Denver Broncos, will John Elway look back and say the possibility of having a team that was built for the future, was built for the present and the future, sacrificing that for being all in on winning the Super Bowl now with Peyton Manning, now have to rebuild this team? It was worth it. Or it wasn't worth it. I would love to know when it's all said and done, and he makes his retirement official, what John Elway's thought is. Me, it's kind of a tricky question because being a Cleveland Browns fan, and yes, we've won multiple championships, but we have never been to the Super Bowl itself. First team to have a perfect season, but don't have a Super Bowl appearance or a win. For the Cleveland Browns, yes, if we would have went all in on the same kind of scenario, or even for Peyton Manning, yes, it would be a win no matter what. But this is a Denver Bronco team that has been to multiple Super Bowls and have multiple Super Bowl wins. I guess if I'm in the front office, or if I'm a Denver Bronco fan, I guess I would like to believe that I would say it was all worth it. Much better than 2 years ago losing to Seattle 43-8. I definitely don't think a lot of people felt that it was worth it. You fell short already twice. Peyton Manning hadn't won a playoff game. Then he finally gets us to the Super Bowl, and we get blown out in the worst possible way. Last year we get bounced out of the playoffs, and now here we are. I don't know. I guess I would say it was worth it. Because I guess because we got an opportunity to see Brock Osweiler this year. And where he might not have the IQ as Peyton Manning, he played pretty good ball. I could see the Denver Broncos, I mean, they were going to make the playoffs even without Peyton Manning. So I could see Brock Osweiler taking them to the playoffs next year. So because of that, knowing that, because Brock had not only the opportunity to kind of learn as much as he could from Peyton Manning while waiting for his turn, but he's also got not only experience, but experience in this system. And so going in and putting all the chips on winning a Super Bowl with Peyton Manning, finally be able to do, in what is probably his last season, and knowing that you have a quarterback that I'm not going to say is Pro Bowl quality, I'm not going to say is all-pro quality. I would say that going into next season, he is pretty good. And there's a good possibility by the time he finishes the complete season next year, he might be really good. Who knows? I would have to say that that's a win-win. Yes, you got a couple, free agent players that, you kind of picked up to fill pieces that are not going to be there next year. Some of them, contracts are going to be up, and they're just not going to have that kind of money to spend on them. Yes, you got a couple aged veterans that are probably going to retire or, stuff like that. But for the most part, I know a lot of people don't look at it this way because they kind of went all in on it. They have a really good foundation to move into the future, and they know what it takes to win a Super Bowl. And now they have that experience. There's a lot of pluses there for this Denver Bronco team. I know that they got Denver like 14-1 favored to repeat next year. They got Carolina, New England, Seattle, and Pittsburgh. There's a four front runners, and it was either 4-1, 6-1, or 8-1. I can't remember what it was, but all four of them were tied for being the favorites to win it all next year. I think the Broncos are a lot better off than people are giving them credit for. I think that this Bronco team might not be able to repeat as Super Bowl champions. Because I think a fully healthy New England team next year is going to be really hard to beat. And with Kansas City having the season that they had, and Oakland continuing to prove, and San Diego and the efforts they're going to put forth in this year. Even with all that said, I could see this Denver Bronco team potentially at least making the playoffs. Like I said, I don't necessarily see them. I don't see them going to the Super Bowl, but I do at least see them being a good enough team at this point that they can find themselves I have to admit, I am glad that I don't got to hear about any more dabbing or any more teeth pounding. That was one of the things I'm probably glad to not have to hear any more of. Don't forget to tune into the 110 Nation Morning Show every morning, every Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. To 10 a.m. Also catch the 110 Nation Sports Show every Monday through Friday at 9 p.m. You can catch the Happy Hour Garage 7 p.m. on Sunday night, and you can catch the Dirt Talk Hour 9 p.m. every Sunday night. This week we got two additional special editions of Happy Hour Garage. Check them out on Saturday at noon and Saturday at 2 o'clock here on the Blog Talk Radio Network. They'll also be available on Spreaker and SoundCloud as of Friday nights, as I will upload them early over there since I will be at work, or I might upload them first thing Saturday morning. Let's go Saturday morning. Trying to make them as available on all the networks about the same time as possible. But with work, it makes it a little bit harder, and I had to have them downloaded in one way and another in two different ways, and it's just the way things are. But make sure you guys check that out. Great shows. We had a blast last night. They had a blast. I was trying to watch the Super Bowl and listen into the show at the same time. But Damian Bean did a really, really good job. Had two great guests on last night. A legend out of Illinois, and then the designer of dirt racing that you can get at your app store. A very fun game to get, and a game I'll be adding on my phone. It was just $2.99, so I had to wait until Thursday. I know it's $2.99. I shouldn't have to wait, but we got priority to take care of first. And, so gotta do that first. Tomorrow night, next two nights, we got some guests lined up for you, and I'm working on some more guests. Been tweeting around, and again, be getting some emails. So hopefully, we're going to have something later in the week as well. But with that being said, tomorrow night we got Mason Mitchell of Mason Mitchell Motorsports join us at 9:30. Talk about the off season. Talk about Gus Dean and Cole Powell, the two drivers that will be driving in the Daytona for them for the ARCA Series. Also, we got Jake Jr. joining us as well at 10 o'clock. I'm also a participant in the Drive for Diversity, and talk about his off season. I've been sharing a lot of the progress going on in the shop for his race car on our fan page, so you guys make sure you check that out. That's what I try to do with all our guests. All our guests that we've had on the show, that we've had relationships with, I try to get them all to like me and friend me on my personal account. And then I try to share as much as I can over to the 110 Nation fan page. And that way they get the exposure, and our fans get to see what's going on. And I just love the opportunity to be friends with, or let's go with Facebook friends. Facebook friends with so many different drivers and different athletes, and it gives me an opportunity to kind of be able to share stuff that not everybody else gets to share, or I normally wouldn't be able to share. So, that's one of the big reasons. I know there are people out there, you're so lucky you get to be friends with so many different people and get to, be friends with athletes. I don't look at it that way. I look at it as an opportunity to build a relationship and, try to help better themselves and get more, viewers and publicity. And, it was funny because when we had Zach Wojcik on last week, and we were messaging the whole time on Twitter, and we eventually got to the point. He's like, I told him when he accepted to come on the show that I would hit him up on Monday to make sure that everything was still a go, because I know he's got stuff going on, and that Tuesday I would send him a reminder, and excuse me. This kind of came out of nowhere. And I told him that I would send him the show information reminder. And so Monday I sent him make sure everything was still going. And of course, everything was still good to go. And then Tuesday morning I sent him the show information and the link in case he wanted to share it with anybody. And he sends me his phone number in a text or in a message talking about just text me later just to make sure you remind me. And I was talking about it. I was like, it's a good thing I'm not one of these like crazy people or stalkers or paparazzi, because most of our guests, Miss Lee has their numbers, because it makes it easier at my end when I'm watching the studio, and because we have a lot of people that call in to listen to the show, and so it's easier for me to know the numbers that I'm looking for. In case they don't press 1, they let me know they want to come on the show, and so for Miss Lee gets that information and passes it on to me, so I know what to look for. And I do the same thing for the Dirt Talk Hour, because I watch the studio for them, so they don't have to be focused on that or worried about that. They can do their job, and I take care of the rest. And so there's so many different athletes and personnel that we've had on the show that I could have a whole black book full of numbers if I really wanted to. And like I told Shorty, I said it's crazy because I've never wrote down a single number. Like I have. The only person that has any kind of numbers to anybody is Miss Lee, because unless I go back to her messages and however long because we go through Facebook Messenger. So however long back that the Messenger holds stuff, that there's obviously going to be people's numbers, or at least area codes of numbers, because it's not always numbers she sends me. Sometimes it's just area codes. But that's the only way I'd be able to pull up any numbers. Outside of that, I don't write none of stuff down. I don't care. I try to, we have some really big names come on the show, and kind of starstruck, but I try to treat everybody, just like a normal human beings. I mean, when it's all said and done, that's all they are. They just have to be athletes, and they just want to be, treated just like everybody else, and act like everybody else. So, but I don't know. I don't even know what made me get sidetracked there for a second. I really love what I do, though. It just blows my mind. It's crazy to know that I get to sit here. Not that I have to sit here. I mean, it's crazy. And I felt bad this morning. This was supposed to be the week that we started off on the right foot. We had the 110 Nation morning show, but by the time everything got settled down last night, and we got through everything, and we tried to get through a basketball game as well last night. And there's a lot of sports stuff going on, and at times I feel bad because it does interfere with our personal life. And instead of us, having relations like we once had in this household, and going to bed at a decent time, 11, 12 or so o'clock. And I know it's a decent time for us. Usually I get on the show at 11. It takes a good 10 minutes or so before I even can download the shows to put them on the other platforms and send the email over to the I-95 so they have a copy of the show. So, it's like a good 10 minutes before I can even do it, and then it takes like another 10, 15 minutes for me to get dispersed everywhere. It's got to be dispersed, and things got to be changed so that that it looks right on all the different platforms, and, this, that, and the other. Then, if Miss Lee happened to be, off and, she wants to talk, or, Damien after his show, or, whatever the case may be. And so a lot of times it's like 12 o'clock before I get to walk away from the computer. And that's if I don't do anything else other than just download and send the show where it's got to be sent. And so, yeah. But once upon a time, after I got done with that, let's go to the bedroom, either watch TV or have some kind of relations or whatever the case may be. But, as we continue to get bigger and bigger and our audience continues to grow, we've really had to step into the role of, exposing ourselves to more games and more sports and this, that, and the other. So, here we are. We watched the Super Bowl last night. Then that follows with we try to watch, and we made it almost all the way to the fourth quarter of the Miami Heat and LA Clipper game that was on earlier today, and I had to finish it off this morning. Of course, the Clippers won. It was a really good game to watch. We were trying so hard. I was trying so hard. I think Shorty was good to go, but I had been up since 4:30 yesterday morning with work. I had to work 5 to 5 yesterday. So, last night at 12, 1 o'clock, whatever it was, that I'm watching the basketball game, this is all I can do to fight to stay awake. But, and so, of course, being up since yesterday at 4:30 and then being up until like 1 o'clock this morning, that me getting up at 9 o'clock this morning or being on the air by 9 o'clock this morning was just something that just did not happen. I could not get myself out of the bed. And so tomorrow we should be back at it. But, I felt bad. But I get to do this. And it's crazy because I don't know what's crazier to me. The fact that I was never an outspoken person. I had my first job, and I didn't talk for 2 weeks, and people was asking me, do I even talk? And I joined, I went into the military and didn't talk to nobody there. I didn't socialize. I didn't even go to formation. I was confused on what I was even supposed to be doing for 2 weeks before I had to stop in my head. Maybe I need to go to formation. Maybe I was lost. And my squad leader actually ran into me at the mall and started talking to me, and I'm looking at this guy like, who the hell are you? Like, why are you talking to me, guy? Before he finally let me know who he was. To go from being that person to not only do I have a show, but this is the highlight of the day. To be able to talk sports. To be able to have guests on it, and it's funny because most lives I have people come in all the time and tell me stuff, and I'm like, why are you telling me this stuff? Like, I really don't care. I don't care that your dog did this. I don't care that your kids did that. I don't care that someone just stole your gun. That was one of the conversations that was this week. There's a lot of things that I simply just don't care, but yet it's not the same when I'm on the show and I have these great guests on it. It amazes me. It amazes me how much of a difference it makes when it is something that you honestly and truly love. But let's get through the schedule here. Hold on. Like I said, tomorrow night we got Mason Mitchell from Mason Mitchell Motorsports, Jay Jr. At 10 o'clock. And then, of course, we got Izzo joining us at 10:30 to talk NHL. Very excited about having all three of these guests on tomorrow. Very, very, very excited. Wednesday, we got Cole Powell, the new addition to the Triple M team for the Daytona race for the ARCA Series. He will be joining us at 9:30 on Wednesday. And then we got Dylan Lumpton joining us at 10 o'clock. So, very, very excited about the guests that we have coming on. I think we might have Rashad Mitchell joining us again to talk about his 50 underrated wide receivers book that he just got done doing. So I think we're going to have him return as well. But great week planned for you guys. I dropped the ball. Not only did I drop the ball early today on the morning show, but I was supposed to do some admin work, and I kind of did that. Not quite to the extent that I was supposed to do it, and so I'm going to pay for it tonight and have to do some stuff before I get to go back to being lazy on my day off. I tell you what, that's kind of what today's been about. Is after yesterday being up from 4:30 in the morning till about 1 o'clock last night or so. Today was kind of more about being lazy and more than anything, really, honestly. But yeah, I got a handful of things that I'll have to do before I get to go back to being lazy today or tonight. But no, seriously, there's stuff that's got to be done. Articles got to be taken care of, and this, that, and the other admin stuff. But oh Lord, I love it, and it's crazy because we were sitting outside last night, standing outside talking. And we all know here at the 110 Nation what the plans are and where we want to be, what the goals are and all that stuff. And it's like you can see it, you can feel the momentum. I mean, stats alone. Just on the stats that are traceable. We have platforms that we have no access to how many viewers, and then of course we have an idea, at least when we join, how many monthly listeners is on the I-95 network. But we don't have no hard stats, and nor do we have hard stats on our show. But just the stats we can tally up. This month alone, I mean, this first week alone in this month has been phenomenal. I mean, we're averaging maybe not the most we have per day per se, but before it was the numbers were a little distorted because of the days of the week and how many shows we're doing. Now we're getting a truer, and that was kind of the other reason why I kicked myself in the butt today, was not getting up to the 110 Nation morning show. But we will be tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock. But just to see the totals in the first week. I mean, as a matter of fact, and I mean what we're seeing in this first week alone has been insanely incredible. I mean, by mid-month, we're going to be crushing almost every month up to this since our return. And so, as we're standing outside last night having this conversation and figuring out which path is the best path for us to travel, and what we need to put to the side to make it happen, and what we need to have for me to walk away from work and know that we'll be financially in a position that we need to be, so that this is a win-win situation and we can continue to grow the 110 Nation to the point that Shorty can walk away from work and be a full employee of the 110 Nation. I mean, those kind of things are thoughts and processes that are going through our mind. And, it's very, very exciting. We know that we're leaps and bounds in quite a way. And, honestly, the ultimate goal when I started this was for me to walk away from everything when I was 40. This was kind of my retirement at 40. Do I see it happening in a little over 2 years? It's going to be a lot of work. I think it's very possible 2 years, and, my birthday's in this month, 2 years and 19 days away or so, that I could potentially walk away from the real job and this be my only job and working on making that opportunity for other people. Will I be disappointed if it doesn't happen in 2 years? No. I mean, that is the goal, but it wasn't something that was taken that serious of a goal, and that was my doing. Now it's become more of a serious thing, and so, yes, I can, I can say part of me says, yes, there's a really good possibility I could see, and this is not what it's about. It's not about us making money so I can walk away from work. It is. I look at it more as an opportunity for us to make enough money here that I can then focus on making other people be able to walk away and this be their only job. That's kind of what I look at it. I don't want people to go, he's just doing this so, basically we can finance him to stay home and do. No. When I walk away, we will be 24 hours. We will have, I will be one of very many shows on a daily basis on this network. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that will go into factor here. It's not just, it's just not for me to walk away from the sport. There's walk away from work. It's so much deeper than that. If you've not ever listened to me talk about it, you really need to tune into one of the episodes I actually talked about what the goals are versus trying to judge me on that, because it's very deep on what I want and how I want to impact other lives. I mean, honestly, truly, that's what it's about. But Super Bowl 50 in the books. Like it or not, now we gotta look forward. Now we gotta look towards the combines, the draft, free agency, and the new season. And meanwhile, you got a couple weeks that's kind of dedicated to either the NHL or the NBA, depending on what poison you like. Fortunately for the NHL, they've already gone through the All-Star break, so they're back in full swing. Unfortunately for the NBA, next weekend they will be taking a break for a few days, so all the attention really gets to be focused on either Kobe Bryant, and this being his last All-Star game, or the NHL at this point. Not many people care. Outside of Kobe Bryant and his All-Star appearance, there's not going to be much attention. I mean, honestly, the three-point contest really comes down to about 2 or 3 people, depending on if J.J. Redick or Klay Thompson can show up. If not, it's going to be Seth Curry. Slam dunk contest, well, this is not the slam contest, but slam contest that we've all learned to love and grow up enjoying. And in the All-Star game, outside of the tribute to Kobe Bryant, it's going to be a joke, just like it is every other year. So that's here nor there. Then we follow the next week up with Daytona 500. I mean, it's NASCAR season, and now we start getting back in the swing of things. As much as the NFL was a big part of it, I mean, spring training right around the corner, and then we got playoffs for NHL, playoffs for NBA, and then next thing you know, it's football season. So, can't really ask for a much better time of the year, I guess. And March Madness next month too. Good God. Well, Oklahoma going down. not even in the top 25. That's crazy to know, too. UNC lost twice last week. ACC just kind of falling apart right now these days. Louisville, self-imposed bowl ban or playoff ban, I guess. It's pretty weird not to. I mean, even though we didn't have football for the last 2 weeks, there was still plenty to talk about. Could an aging Peyton Manning led Bronco team could they beat this Carolina team? And then Cam Newton making most of the week about himself and the color of his skin versus about their team. And we still had plenty to talk about. We had a Denver Bronco player get sent back because of prostitution ring, and Jeremy Shockey part of some other drug ring. And I mean, it's going to be weird because now it's not going to be so much. Even because we know every year you're going to have a handful of players that do stupid things, either kill somebody, be part of some kind of scandal or ring, or beat their wives. And speaking of which, Johnny Manziel, and I've talked about this before, and this goes to prove my point. The NFL really needs to go ahead and do away with their stop domestic violence videos and their commercials. And I noticed that they have backed away from that. It seems like there might have been one, and it wasn't really NFL focused. I don't recall during the Super Bowl, but I have not seen the commercials that just kind of clued in and focused in on all the NFL players. As a matter of fact, I didn't remember seeing the commercial. There was a commercial during the game that they were tweeting, or not tweeting, but messaging back and forth, and it was a message about domestic violence. The NFL and Roger Goodell, they don't care. And I've talked about this before, and this weekend, or last weekend, is another prime example of how I can promise you the NFL doesn't truly care whether or not their players are involved with domestic violence and beating the crap out of their wives, girlfriends, significant others, whatever the case may be. All that was some bad publicity. So the NFL gave money to a non-profit foundation that had to do with domestic violence. Now, obviously, they are doing something with the money, and a good thing with that money. It's not all for the bad. But for the NFL, it wasn't so much to clean up the domestic violence. It was to make themselves feel better by giving money to an organization that helps with women with that situation, so that they felt better about where their organization is at this point. They dump money into an organization. They get the spotlight. They get to be in the commercial. They get to look like they care. But when it's all said and done, it's a show and dance. It's not genuine, and it's not true. Since then, Johnny Manziel is twice, since this whole domestic stuff, just Johnny Manziel alone, twice has been part of a domestic violence case. Still to this point has he not seen any kind of disciplinary action. His girlfriend is prosecuting. His girlfriend is I'm assuming, looking for damages as well, as she cannot hear out of one of her ear at this point now because of the fact that he beat her up. And yet, The NFL has, once again, done nothing. I find it really insulting that the NFL does to try to make themselves feel better. And like I said, granted they give money. I don't mean none of it. I'm sorry, if you truly meant what you was investing your money into, that every time that these players beat the crap out of their girlfriends, beat the craps out of their wives or whatever, we would see disciplinary action. Now, where there's a conflict or where we can have an issue with this is technically this is not really the employer's business. Technically. If I went on a rage tonight and me and Shorty got into a domestic dispute, I knocked her around, cops were called out here, my job's going to have nothing to do with that. If I would have to call out tomorrow, I have 2 weeks of vacation time. I could use that, or just tell her that, the boss that, look, I can't come today. We got to switch my hours around. I need now have Thursday off instead of having today. I need to have today off instead of Thursday. Whatever the case may be. That would be the end of it. So I know it's a fine line because not every job is there such a fine comb going through your life. But at the same time, when you're getting paid millions of dollars and are paid to be a professional, then yes, you need to act like a professional. Yes, I feel that if I'm investing millions of dollars in you, that I should have access to more of your personal life than most jobs. I'm sorry, that's just the way I feel about it. But at the same time, I understand this is their personal life, and the NFL is just the employer. And if the NFL wants to not play the commercials and just stick to their own business, then that would be one thing. And then, okay, yes, it's really none of our business what goes on in their personal life because it's their personal life. But if the NFL is promoting stop domestic violence, is investing into commercials and making it seem that they care, then okay, then all these personal domestic violence or all these domestic violence cases are no longer personal. There's more public ridicule. All that said, I really don't care. Yes, I wish that the players wouldn't do this, but like I said, this is more of a personal, their personal life, and I'm sorry that some dudes are dicks like that. Where I have an issue because, one, not that I'm saying it's ever right to put a hand on a female, but I have seen, I have dealt, I've been around enough females that they go out of their way to cause fights in domestic issues. I'm just putting it, like I said, I'm not saying it's ever right, but I have seen many videos where I'm sitting there watching it like, if I was that dude, I don't know if I could refrain either. Like, there's been some crazy. Like I said, I'm not saying it's right, and I'm not saying it's always the guy's fault or the female's fault. And every story's got every issue or every circumstance has three sides to the story. The truth, or I'm sorry, the his, the hers, and somewhere in between is the truth. So that is what it is. But my issue is the fact that the NFL tries to make themselves seem like they are just this organization that is so concerned about domestic violence and domestic disputes amongst their players, and try to make it look good because they give money to an organization, and in return they get to have these commercials like they're promoting Stop the Domestic Violence. But then once you actually have cases of domestic violence and got domestic arrests, there's not anything being done about it. And, something would have been done the first time to Johnny Manziel, and I'd even done an article on our blog site back when it happened. Over at www.the110nation.com. And I'm pulling, I forgot I even did this article about it. As I'm getting ready to pull it up, I'm trying to back it up to when it actually happened. Back on October 16th. And, there's an article if you want to go over to www.the110nationsports.com. It's on the third page right now. We have about 5 pages worth of articles. It's been something that, if the NFL would have stepped in and done, let me retract that a second. There's a better chance that if the NFL would have done something the first time, maybe it would have not happened the second time. I'm not going to guarantee it because the man went to rehab and everything else, and yet here we are a few months later, and he was back at it partying and relapsing and everything else. So there's no guarantee that if the NFL actually would have done something and been true to their commercials, that it might not have happened a second time. But I would like to think that, being ridiculed and being on, putting your business, speaking of Johnny Manziel, out there in front of everybody to let him know what kind of man he really wasn't, that maybe that would change things. And maybe that would make him grow up when it at least comes to that aspect. Who knows? Yeah, I hate the NFL. Tries to make it seem like they truly care, and we all know that that's not the case. So, I thought this was really cool that I saw this from Russell Wilson, as he no matter what Peyton Manning decides to do, retire or keep playing, he's already reached a certain level of respect from his peers. And that happened well before his second Super Bowl title. In fact, the Seattle Seahawks quarterback Russell Wilson, the first seeds of the respect for Manning started when he was in the 10th grade at Manning's passing camp in Louisiana. That's where Wilson, he wrote in a letter to Manning at the Players Tribune, first learned to respect football and felt the burning desire to be great. Wilson wrote, "Sheriff, if this is it, there's one moment I won't forget. 10th grade, Louisiana, at your quarterback camp. You inspired the kid in the green shirts. You inspired me to work hard, to be disciplined, to be respectful, to take notes. You inspired me to love the process, to love the sweat, to love the tears." That's just part of this letter that Russell Wilson wrote to Peyton Manning. It's really cool to see someone such as Russell Wilson, especially being in the premiere of his career. Right now, honestly, at the quarterback position, there's not too many quarterbacks that statistically are any better than Russell Wilson. Even though that Cam Newton was the MVP this year, there was many parts of this season that Russell Wilson was either your front runner or in strong consideration of MVP. And to see him give the respect. And at the same time, to see Peyton Manning give the respect to not take the moment away from, I mean, he could have made this all about him. He could have pulled a Cam Newton and made this whole week to be in building up to the Super Bowl and to include the Super Bowl. Made it about him. He could have announced that he was going to retire before the Super Bowl, and the focus would have been shifted towards, him, and, that would have been the talk of, topic of conversation for the 2 weeks. I mean, that definitely could have took the focus away from Cam Newton, sound like an ignorant ass, and trying to use the race card instead of just focusing on playing football. But he chose not to, and not for that reason. He just chose not to because he didn't want it to be about him. He wanted it to be about his team. He wanted it to be about the reason they were there, which was that defense, not to be about him or what he has accomplished or what he has not accomplished in that whole conversation. Just like after the Super Bowl, he had an opportunity many times, as that question was asked multiple times, whether or not this was it. And instead, making it about him, he toured for that. I got some priorities to take care of first. Let me focus on that first. Then I'll get back to you all. Kind of conversation is basically what you got out of Peyton Manning. And, that shows a lot about his character, because that had been almost anybody else. We would have known last night, and this Super Bowl build-up would have been about him. Well, what Cam Newton did, Peyton Manning, if it had been anybody else, they would have done the same thing and made it about him. But, that says a lot. And those kind of acts right there is why you have players such as Russell Wilson, doing the things that he does, and say the things that he said, and it says a lot, and it's really cool that's what we get. And, I'm really thankful that, we get to see this, not only from Peyton Manning, but from Russell Wilson. And, it's one of the things. Breaking news today, Knicks fire coach Derek Fisher. The New York Knicks fired head coach Derek Fisher on Monday, just days before the NBA All-Star break. Fisher had a 40-56 record in his second season with the New York Knicks. New York currently is 23-31. They've lost like 9 of their last 10. Obviously, the Derek Fisher, Matt Barnes whole incident was a black eye to the franchise. As I heard part of the press conference earlier today with Phil Jackson, it's one of those things that 5-year contract. Obviously, one of the things that they weren't hoping to do. They were hoping things were going to turn around, but obviously the organization, I'm not quite sure what they were expecting. Last year was a horrible season, one of the worst seasons, if not the worst seasons, in the New York franchise. And then you kind of dissected the team, and yes, your draft pick happened to work out. Pereira's happened to work out really great, but one, you still got the same issue you had before. You still got Carmelo Anthony. And not only do you have Carmelo Anthony, which is not really a team player, you overpaid him and you took up a lot of cap room. So instead of getting talented players, you drafted a talented player, but, once his contract's up, then you're stuck having to come out that money. And you're paying for a ball hog, and that's kind of all you got. The rest of the pieces are kind of makeshift pieces for the most part. So I don't know. I'm not trying to stick up for Derek Fisher. Don't get me wrong. Obviously there needs to be a change, and unfortunately for Derek Fisher, usually the coach is the first piece to go. It's just the easiest piece to change because it's easier to change one piece than it is to change 15 or 16 pieces. So obviously, unfortunately for Derek Fisher's sake, he's the one that got the axe, but there's a lot more issues than this Derek Fisher. And until this team is ready to move into the future, in other words, once they're ready to go ahead and get rid of Carmelo Anthony and really focus on their future, it's kind of a pointless cycle, honestly. So, or get rid of Carmelo Anthony, I'm sorry. It's really just a pointless cycle and kind of going to be the same thing over and over and over. One day the Knicks will finally get it right. One day. Speaking of Knicks, we did have some games today. Shoot through those real quick on the NBA. Right now, we got in overtime. We got Portland up over Memphis in Memphis. It's 108-106 with about 30 seconds left. So make sure that if you guys ain't watching anything else, you guys tune in over there. Oklahoma City up on Phoenix, but only 89-85. Kind of shocked. A little bit closer, especially the performance they put up at Golden State. And honestly, truly, I don't know if we've been back on since that game happened or not, but I was surprised Oklahoma stuck around as long as they did. Cleveland at home over Sacramento, 120-100. Indiana at home over the Lakers, 89-87. Very close game. Lakers almost pulled that one out. Philadelphia makes the Clippers go into overtime at Philly. Lakers win 98-92 in overtime. Charlotte over Chicago, 108-91 in Charlotte. Detroit loses at home to Toronto, 103-89. Brooklyn wins by 1 over Denver in Brooklyn, 105-104. Another overtime game, Orlando over Atlanta in Atlanta, 117-110. And New Orleans wins in Minnesota, 116-102. On the ice tonight, we had 4 games. We had the Rangers win at home over the Devils 2-1. Penguins over Anaheim 6-2, and home. As a matter of fact, I guess they had home. All the home teams won today. Detroit over Florida 3-0. Kind of surprised on that, especially as good as Florida's been playing. And then Ottawa over Tampa Bay 5-1. Those were your games out there in the NHL tonight. Don't forget tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock a.m. The 110 Nation Morning Show will be loud, proud, and ready to go. Loud, proud, ready to go. Where'd that come from? Tomorrow night, don't forget, we got some great guests joining us. We got Mason Mitchell from Mason Mitchell Motorsports. We got Jay Jr., and we have Izzo joining us tomorrow night. So we've got an action-packed show forward to the opportunity tomorrow to be back at it and doing it again. Don't forget you follow me at CJ Sports 1. You follow the 110 Nation at 110 Nation. Also, check us out on Facebook, my personal camp. There you go. My personal. There you go. Let me take a sip here. And I'm drinking Sprite here before you think I'm drinking something that's making me not be able to talk right now. But my personal fan page, Mr. CJ Sports, the 110 Nation fan page, 110 Nation Sports. Check out our blog site over at www.the110nationsports.com. Also check out our company site over at www.the110nation.com for all the latest going on here at the 110 Nation. Don't forget, tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock. Make sure you guys are there. Till then, you guys have a great night.
Thanks for listening to the 110 Nation Sports Show with Mr. CJ Sports. You are a part of the 110 Nation, so be sure to visit the110nation.com for everything related to the show. You can follow CJ on Twitter at 110nation and on Facebook at 110 Nation Sports. Until next time.
Geico presents sharing versus oversharing. Yesterday, Cliff Sora shared a top 10 list of hot fusion restaurants, a vegan gluten-free mashup recipe, and a podcast featuring organic food trends. Oh, TMI, too much internet information. That's oversharing. Cliff, Geico has something worth sharing with your friends. Like how on Geico.com you could save hundreds on your car insurance, update your policy, and report a claim. Gluten-free info that's easy to swallow. Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.